delighted to have with me today Michael Corcoran from Betfair. I've got Yvonne Goff from HSE, Graham Baitson from McKesson, and Neil Dalton, who's not on the screen, who's lucky enough for his picture not to be there, from Say It. And we're going to hopefully set the tone for today a little bit, all right? We had a conversation with Abby about, first of all, the title of the discussion, all right? And setting the tone of the day and being a little bit disruptive. And talking a little bit about our experience. So we had a good conversation over there, much more interesting about eco cars than what we're going to talk about, but we'll try and weave some of that into the thinking today. So the title of the session and the chat this morning is about digital transformation, so what's next? I am so the wrong speaker to be doing this, because in my organisation we've banned the term digital transformation. I don't believe in it, okay? My normal presentation talks about the mysterious case of the disappearing Chief Digital Officer, okay, which is actually about digital and IT stopping being the answer to everything and being the facilitator. So when we disappear and the business starts to talk about change, it starts to drive change, and we're the tools and the people who do that, that's when digital transformation's worked, in my humble opinion, all right? So we're going to try and have some conversation this morning about that. We're going to try and make it interactive, if that's okay. So really looking for questions. I did one of these in London last week, and I got the face for 45 minutes. Not so bad from the panel. It was worse from the audience. We got nothing for 45 minutes. I talked for 45 minutes about something that I didn't know anything about. We ended up talking about Brexit, Game of Thrones, and the 148th Open, which is actually very close to my heart, all right? So if we end up back there, guys, the other rule, I guess, is the guys are going to be short and punchy, so we're not going to ask a question and get 10 minutes of an answer, okay? And we're going to try and remove buzzwords from the discussion, all right? So we're going to not try and talk in technology terms. Wrong audience, I know. But it's an interesting challenge for us to talk in plain English about the things that we want to talk about and not default back to buzzwords, all right? So I'm going to do it a little bit by introducing myself, and then I get guys to introduce themselves. I've said already, my name is Dave. Chief Digital Officer for Tourism Northern Ireland. Why am I in Dublin? Why is a public sector person leading this discussion? Because actually it's not just about the public sector, it's about the engineering mindset, it's about the digital mindset, it's about the ability to change. And actually, having been a private sector person for the last 25 years and 2 years a public servant, all of the things I've learned are as equally important, if not more important, in the private sector. My impatience, my desire for velocity, momentum, it might cause me a little bit of stress, but all of the things that you guys have are driving change inside my little organisation, but also across the wider sector. So when you talk about Northern Ireland, tourism is the only good news story in town. We're talking about leading the industry. We're talking about digital disruption in the industry, not just in the little organisation that I work. So for me, digital disruption, digital business models are about the ecosystem, not just about our individual organisations. It's about collaboration and working together. So I normally say I'm a chief digital officer, and people start to talk to me about websites and marketing campaigns. That's not my day job. My day job is about platforms. It's about collaboration. It's about thought leadership. Yes, there are channels. Yes, there are websites, but I have marketing teams. I have social teams who do that. So the first question I'm going to lead with the guys is to ask them to introduce themselves, to tell me what their job title is, and to actually then explain what they really do and what their day job really is. All right, so if that's okay, just to give a little bit of context. Yvonne.
Yeah, hi everybody, my name is Yvonne Goff. I have 2 roles at the moment and moving to one soon. I'm the Chief Clinical Information Officer for the HSE, and I'm also the Director of Integrated Information Service, and what that really means is the Chief Data Officer for the HSE, and starting that function up. So as Chief Clinical Information Officer, it was a very new role in the HSE. I was the first in the HSE, and really what that meant is trying to build a gap between clinicians and IT, because heretofore it was all about, the IT project and delivering the IT project. But we always came a cropper when we were trying to get the clinicians involved, and then the systems wouldn't work to the way they expected and so forth. So it was about bridging that gap, and I do that. My day-to-day job is really understanding what the business, and when I mean the business, I mean operations, strategy and planning, and also the clinicians and the patients on the ground. What do they need from digital, and how do we prioritise that demand, because we've just huge demand and so little capacity. And then my second role is, so we have about 11 different consultancy reports over the last 10 years saying that the HSE needs more consolidated data and information to drive value. And so we've about 13 different functions within the HSE that do various information services. So it's about bringing all that into one consolidated view, linking the patient's journey, linking all the information that we have. We're really complex because if you can consider, we start out with our GP, we're in acute sector. It's very, very complex. So to bring all those data types together. So that's a bit about me, a bit about my day job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Michael, you've already confessed you're not a digital guy, so I'll give that away.
Digital to an extent,
Yeah.
but I'm head of social content with Betfair, which would be part of the Paddypower Betfair group. Now Flutter Entertainment. I can give you the spiel and the waffle of the rebrand if you have 5 minutes later. But essentially, I'm challenged with taking the Betfair brand across a global scale, out of the shadows, I guess, of Paddypower, which a lot of you will be familiar with, and when it comes to social and content and how high profile and risque they may be, quite a lot in what they do, and kind of giving Betfair a direction and an identity of how we can use those platforms to really reach out to our customers. I suppose, what do I do? At the moment, I'm taking the Betfair brand on a journey, without using too many buzzwords, to use the platforms in the way that is best for them, rather than following what is best for, say, our sister brand, like a Paddypower, which a lot of us would maybe associate with entertainment. So it's a really exciting opportunity. I might be able to discuss some of the things that we're trying to do at the moment and making those changes throughout the discussion.
Okay, Neil?
Yes, so my name is Neil Dalton. I'm in Irelan in the Volkswagen Group. I've been there now for 5 or 6 years. My main role and responsibilities in Irelan is from a marketing side of things, but from the right beginning in terms of product development. So when we go to pricing new future models, right through to the execution of campaigns, the PR side as well, I'll be responsible for. But also for the customer experience, for the customer journey, and trying to map out what the customer journey is in the future, and how we can try and influence that as much as we can, which is a new area for us in the industry. So they be kind of the day-to-day things. In terms of the brand, we have strong brand development, which we've done successfully over the last 3 years. So the brand has outperformed the market. Over the last 2 years, it's grown by over 50%, yet the market's in decline. And that's been driven by new campaigns we've done, new investment levels we've managed to achieve, but also when it comes to our customer profiling, we've totally changed our profiling over the last few years, which I'm happy to talk about later on. But also we're trying to get the average age of our consumers down as much as we can. So the average age of our customer is 10 years lower than the industry average. So that's really helped us target a younger audience that's more digital savvy, more dynamic, let's say, in the future. So that just gives you a broad overview.
Thanks. And Graham?
Hi everyone, my name is Graham Baitson. I'm lead of innovation at a company called McKesson. For those of you who haven't heard of McKesson, you're not the only one. It's probably the largest company that no one's ever heard of. We're a Fortune 6 company, $210 billion in revenue. We're the largest distributor of healthcare in the United States and Canada. We serve 2 million customers on a daily basis. We own the likes of Lloyd's Pharmacy, United Drug, Change Healthcare, Celesio, and parts of CVS in the States. My role is to basically define a global strategy of how we innovate and collaborate as a global company. And part of that involves trying to see where the business is going, using technologies to try and create the healthcare services and products of the future. On a day-to-day basis, I could be doing anything from engaging with universities to see how we can collaborate on projects with our research centres and PhD students. Could be working with software companies to see what software solutions they have with an opportunity to either acquire, partner or license a software. Could be running idea generation workshops with the global offices to try and come up with products for the future and new revenue streams. And anything from branding initiatives, working with companies, working with community to try and understand where we sit within the market and how we can move into different opportunities in different markets.
Thank you, guys. So hopefully you know a little bit better, the panel. So I've said a little bit about how the fact I don't believe in digital transformation. I'm going to argue with myself now, all right? So I'm going to ask a question of the panel, and we're not going to fall into the trap of everybody answering every question here, okay? So we'll pick on them. The guys have prepared them all. So I'm going to go back to Neil, actually. Just because you're there and you're looking at me. What does digital transformation mean to you in your day job, Neil? And when or will it ever be complete for SAID?
Yeah, the last part of the question is probably the easiest to answer. It'll never ever be complete. Our industry, our brand is going through quite a revolution at the moment. Our industry will definitely change more in the next 10 years than it has the last 100 years. So it's quite dramatic developments in the automotive industry. But one of the key digital transformations that we've noticed up to now, let's say, has been how our consumers are so digital savvy. They know far more about our product, our brand, our services, even than our retailers do. And that's been a huge transformation when it comes to our dealers or retailers understanding what the customer might want. And it's trying to instill that into our retailers' minds that we now have a 24-hour showroom experience. And that has been a huge psychological change for our dealers. And some of them still work off well. We open our dealership at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. We finish at 7. We open on Saturday for half a day, and that's it. And then we're closed. But that's not the case. It's constantly changing, and consumers are just spending so much time online now that they're so intuitive as to what they want. By the time they went into retailer showroom, they know exactly what model they want, what spec they want, what the price should be, what they're willing to pay monthly. They'll configure their car online. They'll do every single thing online, and they'll tell the dealer or the retailer exactly what they want. And that's been a huge psychological change for the retailers and a huge challenge for them to get their heads around. Now, we do have general things, basic things like obviously live chat and things like that, but we're moving out to a situation where we want to have video, live content chat all the time, where customers don't have to go to showrooms anymore. They can literally go online and talk to visually to one dealer. The dealer can take them through the model that they're interested in the actual showroom itself. So it's quite virtual, and then they can go onto another live chat with another dealer within a couple of minutes. So that's a huge digital transformation for us that we're seeing right now. In the future, then we'll see a huge transformation in our industry to electrification, and that brings a lot of challenges, but also a lot more opportunities. So it's how we get ready for that transformation, where we engage with customers a lot more online. Customers will have far more flexibility as to how they order their model online directly from ourselves, but it's how we build the retailer on that customer journey in the future, because their roles will change, but it's how they change. So we're not saying we'll do direct sales online and then our retailers are gone overnight. That won't be the case, but they'll be part of that customer journey experience in the future. But how that might form, that's the unknown bit. That's really, because the industry is changing so much so quickly, it's interesting to see where it might end up in the future, and there are things that we're considering at the moment.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Michael, I'm going to pick on you a little bit and ask a question that's close to my heart, which is, we've heard about the consumer changing and the rate of change. How do you equip your organisation as a digital team to either stay ahead or at least keep up, or one step behind that evolving marketplace?
Well, at the moment, it's even quite challenging internally and quite a big business to stay on track. The biggest challenge we have internally is making sure some of our senior stakeholders are educated in how things are changing, and trying to remove some of the misconceptions about what digital is and what digital can be, and even the context of social media can be for our brand and businesses. The biggest one for that is, people perceive social to be this amazing fluffy world where it's still social for people, but it's not quite for brands. There's very few brands that can do it quite well in that aspect, be it a satirical website, a sports publisher, or even our friends in Paddy, who even themselves have a challenge at the moment of where they take the role of digital forward for their brand. I guess after the education part, it's then trying to build internally the teams that will be able to deliver this in a sustainable way. There's a huge challenge at the moment, even in marketing terms, that we have internal teams being built, but not staying up to speed from an education point of view and how their skill sets are evolving. So whilst we're equipping ourselves with the personnel and the resource internally, they're only up to a certain level of skill before the change happens again. So that in itself is a second big challenge.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Again, I'm going to twist this a little bit, guys, from what you've prepared. So Graham, you've talked about innovation, and innovation is obviously a huge part in organisations in showing us what we need to educate ourselves in to stay up to speed. Can you tell us a little bit about organisations or projects you've worked on where innovation has worked really well to do the kind of stuff we're talking about here?
Yeah, so I think McKesson would have predominantly been a distribution company, and we acquire a lot of companies, so as a result of that we grow quite quickly, which means we have a lot of business units that have their own software, their own infrastructures, their own networks, and you know, as a healthcare company that control a lot of patient data, sometimes we have to make sure that while we're sharing data across business units that we keep secure. So we found innovation and the digital transformation in general a great way to be able to transfer that knowledge across business units while keeping that secure. In terms of innovation, some of the creative products that we're working on, you know, in our distribution centres, we have 200 distribution centres around the world. And part of innovation that is trying to reduce cost and improve efficiency. So we're looking at introducing the likes of automation, artificial intelligence, augmented reality to try and improve the worker's experience, to try and reduce errors and cut down costs. I mean, you can't really talk about digital and data without touching on artificial intelligence and stuff like that, but it's in all industries, it's in every area of the business. But we constantly are pushing the customer experience side of things. We're constantly looking at new ways in which we can introduce software, we can introduce technology into the company to try and improve everyday lives of our employees, our customers, and also everyone that business touches.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Yvonne, coming back to you, I keep using this digital transformation word, but in your organisation, who owns digital transformation and where does it sit in the structure?
Okay, so I did prepare this one, and I was kind of thinking of it, and I suppose we're so big, there's 140,000 staff in the HSE, and I just think, you know, the ideas of how we're going to improve, how we're going to deliver healthcare come from everyone, right? So I'm really, I don't know if any of you are familiar with, I live and breathe it at the moment, the Sloan to Care report, and the Sloan to Care report is really important because it got all cross parties politically to come together to agree a 10-year plan for health, and that's never happened before because heretofore, every few years we've a new minister and who wants something different. So e-health piece of that document was probably the strongest piece of it, data and information. They saw the absolute need for digitising our healthcare. And so our structures are built. We have an office of a CIO. I work within the office of CIO. But really what we're trying to do is you know, that is my role really. We're trying to shift to say, well, how do you want to deliver healthcare in the future? We want to shift the balance of care into the community. We want to shift the balance closer to home. We want, like traditionally, you know, we see our formal healthcare given by the doctor or the nurse and all that. That's not really what it should be. You know, reality is we all care for our mother or father ourselves. So it's about ensuring the digital enablement for the patient, going down telehealth, going down all those kind of other avenues. But who owns it is really, it's everyone really, you know, and that's about it, really. Yeah.
Correct answer.
Yeah. Okay,
all
great.
Right, that's what I was looking for. I guess to the rest of the guys, I'm particularly interested in organisational structures because digital transformation traditionally has come out of IT and becomes IT trying to lead the business. Have any of you guys got a view on where it works particularly well, either in your own organisations or somewhere else you've seen?
If I'm being honest, it's quite difficult to figure out how it works at the moment. We're going through a number of restructures to try and find the best approach to managing digital within our business. And even in the context, I'll bring it back to my work in social and content. We would have normally had a centralised social and content team, but the infrastructure of social media and what it does for the business from a advertising point of view, driving consideration to place a bet or play games on our products, and also customer service and customer experience. The infrastructure offers so much more beyond what the perception is, and that's quite challenging for a centralised team to manage on its own. So we're looking at decentralising it and creating hub and spoke models within the team, ensuring that the people with the best knowledge and expertise to communicate to customers or to deliver information or insights or anything that's valuable to our end users are behind the keyboard, or behind the planning and behind the conceptualization of any of the content that we deliver. So, you know, it's quite challenging at the moment because we are fragmenting quite a lot of the teams within the business. but I think we're slowly taking the right approach. Whether that restructuring will be solid for a long period of time, that is still a huge question mark.
Okay. Anybody else before?
Yeah, I suppose I echo Michael's point, the hub and spoke model. I think that's a great way of communicating information throughout the business. I think one thing that's worked really well for us is as we're growing and becoming bigger and getting more partners, to have a technical representative, a business representative and a partner representative in the room at the same time, I think has worked really well for us. It allows everybody to make a decision, everybody to influence a direction, and everybody to be comfortable with being able to follow through and validate whatever decision has been made. So that's worked really well with us.
Okay. Thanks, Graham. I'm going to try and dig a little bit deeper into some of the challenges from a technology perspective now, but actually not talking about the technology. I'm going to talk about data, artificial intelligence and ethics. So the world that I live in, data is king. Data, not data. Data is king. It's about trying to find new sources of data. It's trying to use that data to drive very personalised or hyper-customised experiences. I guess what I want to chat to the panel about is where do you draw the line on things like ethical use of data, personal versus impacting my own privacy, the security of the data, and how we use that to deliver those experiences without crossing the line or getting close to it?
I think ironically for us, what we found is since GDPR was introduced May 25th last year, our customers are far more skeptical about our objectives and why we want to obtain their data and for what reasons we want to hang on to their data. From a customer perspective, their data is far more secure than it ever has been in the past. But ironically, with GDPR being heightened awareness, that's actually had a more of a damaging effect, I would say, on our brand and what we want to do. But I think generally speaking, from a data perspective, we as companies, organizations need to build trust with our consumers and to make sure we let them know why we're obtaining their data, for what reasons, but also they need to see a benefit from us hanging on to their data. It can't be one-sided all the time, because I think we're all obsessed with, the more data we have, the more information we have on the customer, the more we can target that customer in the future through tailored campaigns. But we need to tell the customer what benefits we have for them to hang on to that data and use that data in the future. And I think that's something that brands kind of sometimes fail to do, that we need to do a lot more of. So I think that would be a huge focus area. And we have some legitimate interests as to why we hang on to data for recalls or warranty issues or safety issues. But the main reason why we hang on to data is to understand more about our customer and to target that customer more. But I think, again, through campaigns we do, how we target the customer, we have to show them a value proposition. It has to be a key value proposition and what that is to the customer, how that's going to change and benefit their lives in the future, through whatever models they might buy off us in the future from a car perspective. But also with retargeting, and this is where customers really get peeved off with us, is in some cases you see brands who will just retarget the customer with the same information, the same offer, same everything. And that's where customers really get annoyed, because you're not giving them added value above and beyond what the standard value proposition was. We need to have an added value proposition beyond the standard that they would have seen from. So the retargeting has to be above and beyond something that's more beneficial to them in the future. So it's just about how we understand that and build that customer journey and give them added value.
Okay, thanks, Neil. Yvonne, I'm going to pick on you. I'm
Yeah,
going to twist your question though before you start.
Well,
all right?
yeah, okay. Well,
so I like you being uncomfortable. So, public sector.
well, can I comment on that one though?
No, it's public sector. Don't worry, it's coming. Don't worry. So, public sector. The biggest challenge we have is that we ask you for your information every time you talk to us.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the efforts in public sector in Ireland to share that information? So when I give you my address, so one of the big projects I have in the UK is about identity management, and that when you give me your information once, and when you tax your car, and then when you go to pay your tax, you don't have to refill in the form, or at least the first 3 pages of it. Could you maybe give a little bit about how the HSE is dealing with that kind of stuff internally, but then also thinking about the customer?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I suppose from just commenting on GDPR, I think sometimes we overcomplicate it. I think there's rules, and they're very similar to the data protection rules that have been there, but there's heightened awareness. And I just, before I give you my answer, I'll just tell you how bizarre it's gone. I have 3 kids. We were told recently we couldn't go to the sports day for GDPR reasons. You know, it's like bizarre. So, you know, I just think sometimes we